some people think I'm alienated from them. The man who's working in McDonald's right now, who may be listening to this podcast, may think, oh, why would I listen to him? He's worth over $1 billion.
Might not seem relatable.
Yeah, he hasn't got anything in common with me. But I was the common man. I was the normal man. Even today, I describe myself as a poor man with lots of money. I don't describe myself I don't describe myself as a rich man because I'm not from their clubs. I didn't go to their universities. I'm not from their weird groups. I'm not in the Illuminati.
The money wasn't inherited.
No, absolutely not. So I made everything myself. So I'm glad I did those jobs. If I could turn back time till I was 15 years old, knowing everything I know now, at 15, I'd still work a year or two in McDonald's just to ground myself a bit more.
It's funny because though this podcast is all about business entrepreneurship and people going out their way to make their own businesses and, create money for them own selves, I always recommend to people, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, to go and get a job in a specific place, something like Carphone Warehouse, where they learn the scale skills, they learn the customer service skills, they learn all these things that will transition into their business. Because I think in them places there's so much you can learn that you can't learn from starting a business at that age.
No, you're completely correct. And you also learn how to be a boss. I remember, I'll share with you a quick story from my prep days. So every single day there was a delivery of new goods. And it was heavy, like big, stacks of canned drinks. And, the ingredients would come in massive tubs of mayonnaise and stuff. It weighed quite a lot. And a gentleman I used to work with was a big Slovak guy by the name of Blaže. And the delivery was down a few flights of steps into the security office because it was the airport. Everything had to be run through the security scanners. And you used to have to put it in a lift, bring it up, and bring it into the kitchen. And every single night, delivery would call. And every single night, if you were working the night shift, you had to go and lift all this heavy stuff into the elevator. So one day, Blaže, I wasn't working, was working with 2 female members of staff on night shift. And the elevator broke. The elevator was broken. It happened in that airport. The elevator is probably 30 years old at the service entrance.
Yep.
And the manager, I guess, told him, well, the goods have to come upstairs. They have to be refrigerated. And Blaže, like a gentleman, I guess, and like an idiot, and I love him. He's still a friend. I still speak to him now. But back then, he certainly was an idiot. He was probably, 20 years old back then. He said, you know what? I'll carry it all up the stairs myself because there were 2 female members of staff working. So he goes downstairs, picks up these heavy, 24 cans times 2. You're picking up 48 cans of drink at a time, running up these stairs. Took him 5 hours to complete the delivery. And he slipped a disc in his back. And when he slipped a disc in his back, he called in sick the next day. He called in sick the day after. And the manager, who I believe's name was Linda at the time, he complained to her saying, look, can I get sick pay for this? Because, I was injured at work doing this. And she was like, no, you can't. And he was like, why? Because when you are, first of all, initiated into any kind of crappy job, they train you how to do things.
Yeah.
So I remember signing a piece of paper where they train you how to lift things up.
Yep.
Bend your knees, lift through your back. And
She
was like, no, Blaže, you signed this. So any lifting injuries you get are your own fault. He saved the day and saved the delivery and saved the entire inventory of stock. Tens of thousands of dollars, no doubt, worth of ingredients and drinks, etc., by carrying this all up 2 flights of steps by himself. Slipped a disc, and he was off work for maybe a month. They didn't pay him a single penny because he'd signed this stupid waiver saying, I know how to lift things. That's very different from what he was asked to do that night. And it just made me think, wow, big corporations don't actually care about you. They don't give a shit what happens to you. And it's what I tell people nowadays. That story resonates with me when I tell people, like, you're very dedicated to your job. Maybe you're a woman, you're very dedicated to your job. And you're thinking, I'm not going to have kids for the next 6 or 7 years because I'm going to fight for this promotion. If you die tomorrow, 99% of you listeners out there in normal jobs will be replaced in a week and you'll be forgotten about in 2.
Yep.
Your presence will not be missed around the office. Your presence will not be missed in the kitchen or, on the food court or in the customer service
Furthermore,
area.
they probably won't even realize that you've disappeared.
Exactly. Yeah. If you disappeared and didn't tell them, they'd be like, oh, well, he's just quit out of nowhere. So, don't give yourselves and don't give your heart and soul to these companies because they have no heart and they have no soul. The business that I run, certainly the people who work for me, I don't even say work for me. I say work with me because they have skills that I don't. And if one of them was injured in the workplace or, broke something that he owned that was company, I'm super cool about all of it. Because I don't get how you can rely on these people to keep the wheels turning, essentially, but then at the same time just throw them to the dogs when you need to. Yeah. So Big corporations don't care about you. Shout out to Blage if you're watching. But,
Shout out,
I'm mentioning a bunch of people I used to know when I was a teenager.
I like it though, because it kind of shows you that regardless of how wealthy you are now, where you got in your life, you haven't forgot the people who were with you from then. Whether you speak to them or not, but the fact that you still, it amazes me that you remember their names. Because someone would assume that person of your wealth and your status would have flown past all these people, and it's like, oh, I don't remember who you are. Sorry, what's your name? You know what I'm saying? No. But the fact that you still know it shows that quite how humble you are.
In fact, he lives back in his home country now. 2 years ago, I was in Bratislava, and I had Instagram at the time before I got banned. I looked him up and went for beers with him. So,
is it?
Yeah, and I'll still talk to everyone I used to know. I don't, and that's one, I guess, misconception about my brother and I. I don't think I'm better than everyone. I try to stay away from the public because the public now become very annoying. But people who I know and people who I've known for years, no, I've always got time for everyone I used to know.
The life you're living now with the wealth, that's like the new norm to you, right?
I'm trying not to let it feel normal, and I'm trying to stay humble, but it's very difficult to keep your mind swithed on like it used to be 10 years ago in regards to the price of things. I don't know how much bread and milk are and various things like this. Or, you know, when you spend money or when you buy a new car, the feeling of excitement isn't quite there like your first ever supercar. And I try my very best to think like the old Tristan. How would I feel at 19 if I had just booked this 140 grand private jet flight to Miami? How would I feel? But you can't. You become slightly numb to it. It is normal.
See, this is what I'm thinking, because when you're linking up with these people from your past days, does it make you think, yeah, man, I miss the brokey days. I miss the life where you don't have to really care so much about this or that, and you have those people around you, just hanging around them.
Well, the thing is, I still have those people around me. Most of my friends who I've known for 15, 20 years, and I still speak to the same people. I mean, Rory, a lot of you know. Marcel, a lot of you know if you watch any of my content online. You know, I hang around with the same people I've known forever. So, no, I don't ever miss the brokey days, but speaking about them with my old friends makes me appreciate what I have now.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So where did you go from there, Tristan?
From working at so we go from the sandwich shop to selling television commercials on the phone. Well, that business, there was a small venture where my brother and another senior salesman at that company decided to start their own venture selling TV advertising because the boss ran it very badly, to be honest with you. And I was working for them for a while, but that business ended up falling into nothing. I mean, we have my brother, he's probably, 20 years old at the time.
Yep.
First ever business he's run. The other guy, you know, probably 25, 26 at the time, but very irresponsible. And the business ended up collapsing and falling apart because television advertising died. I think that...
What year is this?
This is... So I must have been 21, so maybe 14 years ago. So 2010.
10, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough, yeah.
So the problem was, I think, that would be an impossible business to run nowadays. To call people and try to convince them to spend 20, 30, 40 grand to advertise on television, they'd be like, well, I can get my niece to make a TikTok video and try and make it go viral. And the internet has killed television advertising. Only the biggest of the biggest companies now do it. So there's no more medium-sized companies aspiring to do it. So if you're thinking of selling TV advertising or starting that as a business, good luck to you. But I think today it would be very difficult. It started failing around 2010. I worked a myriad of various sales jobs, from selling windows to home improvements. I actually made a lot of money when conservatory insulation first kicked off. So conservatories are either too hot or too cold, and people were insulating the ceilings. And I worked for a company in Milton Keynes with a guy who actually my former boss used to know, the former television advertising boss used to know, named Andy. And he ran this ragtag outfit of random salespeople from all sorts of backgrounds to go around, knock on doors, cold call, anything you could do to drag clients in, any house with a conservatory. So I used to go out on rainy days or super hot sunny days or super cold days and leaflet houses in nice areas like Radlett, like Hitchin, like the areas close to Luton, where people had conservatories in their houses, and I'd follow up on the leads and stuff. And I was the top salesman at the company.
Selling white gold.
Yeah, and I was 22, 23, and I was making for myself well over £1,000 a week, which isn't bad, especially 10 years ago. Remember, £1,000 a week was
a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, and that was my first taste of ever actually having money. And when I mean having money, it means, which is crazy because my threshold on having money is very low because I've been very broke. Having money at 23 meant to me that when I went to the supermarket, I could get anything I liked. That was wild.
Yeah, you have to think twice about it.
It's like, oh, pot noodles, yeah, I can afford these.
Yeah.
Oh, a jar of olives that costs £5 because they've got cheese in them. Okay, I can buy those. You could just buy whatever you liked from the supermarket.
Yeah.
That was mind-blowing. And that was, that was my conservatory installation sales job. But that was, I made very good money. And again, you learn a lot of very difficult lessons. You have the door slammed in your face. You have people answer the door with their dog barking at you. What do you want? And you're like, hello, sir. Well, I've noticed you have a conservatory, and you're trying to pitch them. It's very difficult. And I think the internet has killed that. I think that every single year for the last probably 100 years, up until 2010, salesmen got better and better and stronger, and the science was refined, and the science of sales was perfected. And I think now it's gotten worse. I feel like the younger generation aren't built to walk around in the rain and knock on doors and try to hustle money out of selling conservatory insulation or windows. Windows are hard to sell, bro. Everyone has windows.
Yeah.
Houses all have windows, and you have to knock on the door and convince him to get rid of his old ones
and put the new ones
and
in.
buy
It's
new
funny
windows.
because there was a Netflix series called White Gold, which is why I said it's called White Gold, right? It was all on the idea of these sales guys' comedy show selling PVC. But the fact that they're basically just trying to sell this PVC as much as possible, telling these people to get rid of their old one for no apparent reason to get the new one in.
It's exactly what I do.
Like, that's a product there where you have to just learn to sell it properly.
Yeah. And nowadays you have youngsters that are just like, oh, well, sales is hard. You know, I sent a bunch of cold emails. I didn't get a reply. Cold email is hard? You think copying and pasting and sending is hard?
Yeah, literally just put
you
it
don't
on the
know
whole
what
of the
hard
email
is.
just-
Try dialing them on the phone.
Yeah.
You probably have a lot more success.
How do you...